This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming. This evening we have Colin from the Visitors Bureau as our guest. But first we have to accept the minutes. So we have two sets of minutes. One from the special meeting on the 30th of October, 2024 that was held here. I have a motion to accept those minutes.
Make that.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second.
Tina? Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Oh, it's a fire call.
What's that noise? It's like an emergency.
Oh, it's a mistake. Cancel that. I don't know.
Cancel them.
So, well, we're gonna,
15th
yeah,
and the 30th.
October 8th?
Yeah. Well, they come to-
All right, well, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the 30th.
You're right, okay.
Big favor, thank you. I'd like to put that 2012 550 out for bid on the Wilmington website.
Gotcha.
That's the only thing I have.
All right, so Don was informed me that I've made a mistake. We have an October 8th, 2024 minutes as well, which was the regular meeting. I have a motion to accept that.
I'll make that.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Signify by saying aye. Opposed? Carried. So October 30th, and then we had the regular board meeting on what day, Don? November
15th.
50th?
It was a
No,
special meeting.
No, we had a special meeting on,
15th, wasn't it?
no, it was last week.
On the 30th. We have one on the 7th. That one you don't have yet.
Okay,
I'm back in October.
okay, so we had a special meeting on the 15th?
Just before I left.
Okay,
It was a work session or something for the budget.
okay, yeah, so we had a work session.
October 3rd. Right.
No minutes for that.
Yes,
The
it
minutes
was.
were just a few sentences, right?
It wasn't much, yeah, it was just, I emailed them to everybody, put them in the boxes.
You said we went over the budget and nothing was
Nothing was
decided. Great.
All right, so we have a motion to accept those minutes.
I'll make it.
Second? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Who seconded?
Opposed? Carried. Okay. So tonight we have a guest. Colin from the Visitors Bureau is here. Who will like to talk to the board about what's happening at the Visitors Bureau.
Sure. Thanks for having me first this evening. I appreciate the invitation. So I just have what I'm going to present to you is just a list of events that we have planned at the Visitors Bureau through September of 2025, starting with November. So this Saturday, 16th, we have our Wilmington's fourth annual holiday craft fair at the Twisted Raven from 10 to 2. You're all invited. Please come. We have currently 13 vendors, local vendors that are looking forward to sharing their beautiful creations with you. The restaurant will be open as well, serving food. In December, on Friday the 6th, the Visitors Bureau is having a holiday party at the Twisted Raven from 6 to 11. On December 14th, the Visitors Bureau and the town are having a holiday celebration from 5 to 8 p.m. on Saturday, December 14th. Before I go any further, I'm going to leave this list here with you, so you'll have it entered in the minutes. So you'll also have a copy
I
of
can
this.
stop writing.
Yeah, so
Okay,
you
thank
can stop writing.
Okay.
And I plan to, do a post on the social media somewhere about this as well. just as, it's good, I feel like the whole town needs to have this information, and if they want to have input. And then the next event isn't until March, and that is on the 23rd. It's a Sunday. It's our town dinner at the Hungry Trout from 5 to 8 p.m. On May 25th, May 2025, the 16th through the 18th, we're having the 24th annual Two Fly, the Hungry Trout fly fishing event. In June, there are 3 events, 2 of which the Visitors Bureau has a part of. One is mostly the Historical Society. So on the 7th, on June 7th, we have our uphill races at Whiteface, and I just opened up the registration last week. I met with the Adirondack Sports Council, as well as the Lake Placid Marathon, which is going on the same weekend as well. So we had a logistical meeting to sort out the emergency personnel and all that sort of stuff. And we're not concerned about having those events on the same day. We feel like we can fund the resources between the different communities to make that happen. And the next day, the 8th, is the 100K Whiteface Wilmington race, the mountain bike race. On the 15th, Sunday, is the Historical Society's whiskey run. Then in July, on the 12th and the 13th, Saturday and Sunday, and this is the Ride for the River. This is something we're aware of, but we're not necessarily a part of the Whiteface Visitors Bureau. On Sunday, we are the 20th Ironman. We are part of that, the Whiteface Visitors Bureau. And we have the 26th for our next Music Fest from 12 to 10 p.m. on Saturday. In August, we have 3 dates. August 9th, the Saturday, is our town yard sale. On the 16th is the 17th annual Wilmington Get Together. August 29th through 31st is the Mountain Bike Fest. And then in September, we will have our Festival of Fall Colors on the 13th. And that's the calendar. Questions? I might not have the answers, but I will try my best, and if I don't, I'll look them up and I'll get them to you. Yeah.
Did anybody have any questions?
I think there was an issue with the Ride for the River this past year. Is that, you said it's not necessarily in your hands, or?
So that's something I'm still learning, to be quite honest. What, if that's something, if, I haven't gotten that far.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Dawn, do you think that we could ask Above Social to put these on the
Oh, yeah.
calendar on the website? Because that needs some updating. That would be helpful.
Calendar, we don't have a calendar on the website.
Yeah,
We do.
there's an events.
I could do that as well.
You can,
I'll ask
oh,
Emily, she's on our,
well, we have to pay for it.
oh, okay,
We have to pay for Above Social to add things to the website.
okay.
Okay.
I think there is.
There's an events bulletin board, but, a general bulletin board, but
I think there's a web
I'll have to look.
component.
I must have missed it.
I also could be wrong, but I think there is somewhere that
I know
has.
we talked about it, but I didn't think it ever got put up.
Okay.
Yeah, with respect to the Ride to the River, they've typically used the beach. And I found, to me, there was somewhat unsatisfactory to have an event that size using the Wilmington Beach during the summer on an 80-degree weekend when people want to actually go down and use the beach, and the town took the pains of getting lifeguards and getting it open. So it's more of a discussion. You know, the board will, I hope, move next year to a kind of a permitting system. So we may ask them to relocate to some other venue, part of the town, and see if they'll accept that or not. But that one, yeah, I've already communicated, my comments on last summer. And I've sort of told them that we're going to look at it as a board and come up with a policy where people can sign up for the events, sign a permit, get the right kind of insurance, pay a permit fee, or not pay a permit fee depending on the circumstances of who it is that's asking. And that next year, this is helpful because it's the calendar, and I can look at the calendar. We can look at the calendar and try to get that thing ready to go for next year, so it's a little smoother. So very helpful that you gave us all that stuff. The 100K bike race,
Yes,
that is that going to be there on our next sports council? Are they still interested in?
they're still doing that.
Okay.
Yes, so I'm working with Michael from the Sports Council on that.
Is Michael new?
No,
Okay.
yeah.
I don't know who I don't know who I met last
He's
year.
relatively new, like this seems like, in some ways, yes, he's new to it, but he's not new to events.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Colin, what did you say for the mountain bike fest in August? What was the date?
Sure. That is the 29th through that's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so 29th, 30th, and 31st.
For some reason I had the 21st wrote down, and I'm like,
Sure.
it's a week earlier than normal.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
why I asked.
No problem. Look, I also want to add that I'm really looking forward to partnering with the town for our holiday celebration. I think this is really just a wonderful thing that we're doing on the 14th.
Yeah.
Yes, just wanted to add that.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, on the website, it's under Living Here and it's called Community Events.
And it's a calendar.
Well, it talks about community events. It talks about the Christmas celebration, the Easter parade, town dinner, summer concert series, trunk or treats, and it talks about things. It just doesn't have dates, so I think that would be a good place for us to put those items.
I have a pretty good idea of the events that the Visitors Bureau has used the town parks department to help with in the past.
Sure.
And my understanding is that it's the Music Fest, the Two Fly, and the Festival of Colors. The other events you mentioned that required the town parks department are not Visitors Bureau events.
Yes.
Is that your understanding as well?
That is my understanding. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. I hate to bring this topic up, but this seems like the only time to bring it up. Are you managing the town social media page?
I am, well, no, I'm measuring, I am doing monitoring, I am doing the Visitors Bureau page, not the town page. So it's the Wilmington Visitors Bureau. It has like a little brown Facebook icon on it. Whiteface Visitors Bureau, sorry. Yeah, that's the one that I do.
Would you be willing to manage the town social media page?
I would be
Okay,
willing to
great.
do that, yes.
How about helping with the concerts at the beach in the summer?
So I would want to bounce this off of board members, because I don't want to speak for them as well. We're partners in seeing board members. So, but I mean, personally, yes, I love music. As far as the capacity of the Whiteface Visitors Bureau, I just would like to check in with them first
Sure.
before. But
Sure.
yes, personally, yes.
When I broached this topic with the board, the impression I got was that no town employee is really chomping at the bit to deal with booking the bands. And so if that was
Okay.
something the Visitors Bureau wanted to do, I think that would probably be helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Does anybody, Colin, if I ask the other people attending if they have any questions for you?
Please,
You're free
yeah,
for
and
that?
again, I'm gonna
Anybody have any
refer
other
this
questions
down.
for Colin while he's here? No? Okay. Thank you so much, Colin.
You're welcome.
I think we'd have to also talk to Nicole about the bands and stuff too, because she handles all that.
Yes.
So that would be something we'd have to sit down and talk to Nicole, because she actually manages all the concerts and stuff. So I mean,
Yeah, I would
that
like.
would be something we'd talk to Nicole about too, without us making a decision without her.
Absolutely, yes. I don't want to yes.
She said it was her favorite part of the job, and she refuses
Well, it's
to
something that she does, so we would
relinquish
have to
any.
include her on that.
Yes.
Thank
I
you.
didn't know
Yeah,
that.
and I'm around
Okay.
in the office from 9 to 3 down at the Visitors Bureau. Feel free to stop over and say hello anytime.
Did you have something you wanted to add?
No, I didn't. I thought that the Visitors Bureau had done the concerts. That was my understanding. I wasn't aware that I thought the funding came through the town, but I thought that it was set up by the Visitors Bureau.
Music Fest.
Thank you.
Yes, the
Thank
Music
you.
Fest is a visitors
Thank
bureau
you.
at the town concerts. No.
Thank you.
I actually have thought that too.
Oh.
Beach, yep.
Okay, thank you. The reports from the departments, as Louis was leaving, he shouted out what he would like to do. And so what he has is, they've replaced, he'd like to take the 2012 250 and, put it, 550, pardon me, 550, and put it out for bid, and so we'd have to declare it as surplus, and then give him authorization to put it out for bid. Where does he put it out to bid?
Goes in the newspaper. Goes on.
No, he was talking about it one day where we're sitting there.
There's auction sites, but there was one particular one he had, I don't remember the name of it, it's something that's affiliated with the state, I
The
think.
Martin or Michael or something that does it, because we
Yeah.
just put in a whole list out with a gentleman.
Okay,
And we can put it in multiple places. I mean, once it's surplus, it doesn't really matter where it's listed.
sure.
Yeah.
So, in view of that, can we have like a motion to declare it surplus and authorize him to put the 550 out for bid?
I'll make it.
No second.
Any discussion?
Do we have a estimated cost of what that it's worth?
I wish he were here, because
He
I think
does.
he does.
I don't know what the
That's fine.
number
He
is.
Yeah.
hasn't, okay.
Yeah.
And while we're on the surplus, I think last year that they made a resolution to carry, like, there were items that didn't sell at surplus. I
Right.
think that there were things that we were gonna relist as surplus items. I don't know if we could, while we're doing that, maybe.
We received a bid for what's left is the fuel tank out there. It's in there, we received a bid for that. That was held open as well. The truck didn't make the bid and was sold for scrap, and the highway department took care of that and received some funds from that scrap and some other scrap that was stolen. And those are the two that I knew of. I don't know what the other ones are or the status of them are.
There was some sort of a gate. I've got a list in the file.
Okay.
There was the pull down metal thing. I think some Christmas decorations, maybe.
Oh, Christmas.
Nothing of any great worth
Nope.
was left.
So we have to move on with.
Yeah, wait, any further discussion on the motion to declare a surplus and authorize Louis to set it out for bid? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. That's all you know anything from Highway Department? No. He's left.
Nothing else.
Okay, Water Department, Ed submitted his monthly report to us. They produced 3,132,900 gallons in Water District 1, and gallons to Whiteface was 49,200. The daily average was 208,900 gallons. The daily average for Whiteface was 1,600. He's maintained samples. He's installed meters and readers. He replaced the VFD at Whiteface.
Variable frequency drive.
Okay, he replaced that at Whiteface. He winterized the bathhouses for the wintertime, and he installed a 2-inch meter pit for the KOA. He repaired the hydrant at the inn at Whiteface, and he assisted other town members with the removal of the splashboards. And that's his report. Parks. John's excused tonight. I know he is working on, so we've had a lot of wind. Some of the banners, he tried to keep the banners up to get through Veterans Day, but some of them had suffered with the mighty wind a little bit, so they got blown off, they got picked up, he put a couple on. So he's now removed all the banners. He's getting the Christmas decorations out for next year. We've sort of identified those that have seen their useful life. We're going to try to spruce up some of the other ones that have gotten a little rusty. With no intention of replacing any of those this year because we replaced some earlier in the year, and he's going to start getting the Christmas decorations out soon. Codes.
We have 11 new building permits issued. Fees collected are $3,264.55. We have 54 open permits. There are over 20 site visits. And we are still holding at 150 STR permits.
A waiting list?
We have a waiting list of potentially 4.
Okay. Have you started doing like the permit renewal things? How's that?
It's going fairly well. It's going well. I sent out 50 renewal emails last month. I sent out, I think, 10 this month. There's going to be, I think, 15 next month. And they're rolling very nicely. I probably have 35 inspections already done, and most of the paperwork is flowing pretty well.
Any questions for Doug?
Did we ever get the permit to match the code, the law?
I wasn't sure what you were missing.
I can send it to you.
Please do.
Okay. Yeah.
I know I asked a few meetings ago, and somewhere in these pads of paper I have it written down, but just to clarify for myself, so roughly 15 of the STRs in Wilmington are what we would consider accessory dwelling units. Like
that sounds about right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Well, pardon me. Anything further for Doug? Thank you, Doug. Reports from the board members. Tim is up first.
I did have another question for Doug, just as a quick one. When the STR permits were initially issued in 2022, I thought that they didn't start being issued until late November or December.
That sounds right. But we did a lot of them. It was a huge number in the beginning.
So people have renewed their permits before their 2-year permit was up.
No.
So
right now is when it started. This is where from 22, 20, and 23, that's now hitting now.
Didn't you say that you did some in October?
Well, I sent out the emails.
Right, the notifications. Okay.
It doesn't mean nothing's due yet, but I've sent everything out so I could stay on top of it.
Got it. That was okay. Understood. So it's the end of November that they will start to expire?
Correct.
The first ones? Okay. Okay, thanks. My report is simply to thank everyone who voted on election day. And thank you for exercising your constitutional right.
Thank you, Tim. Darren.
2 things. Still working on getting prices for the generator for the town hall.
Yes.
It's hard to find anybody that wants to bid on anything these days, but
okay.
And the other thing that if the board would allow, I'd like to make a motion and then have a discussion on it to raise our water rents. We've talked about that. We talked about it at the budget hearing, and it's something that has to be done before they're billed in January. Is that correct, Nicole?
January 1st.
So even if we don't make a motion on it tonight, at least have a discussion so we can get that rolling and moving forward. And I have talked to Eddie about it. Eddie has indicated that he's in, pretty desperate need of some additional funds, which I will talk about when we get to the budget thing, because we cut most of those funds. And he said that basically he's running on a shoestring budget, and costs of electricity and purification and the amount of samples that he does, replacement parts for everything, as he came in here one time and talked about his turbidimeters and upgrades that were going to have to be done. And he just doesn't have a lot of money to do those upgrades. So one way was to be raising the water rents rather than necessarily putting it on the taxes. So his suggestion is they're, I believe, $90 right now, $180 for a commercial account. plus there's overages if they go over their set amount of gallons. His suggestion is to go up to somewhere between 100 for a residential to 110, and the same with that for a commercial, which would be double, which would be 2 and 220. So it's something that we need to discuss at a board, but Eddie definitely said he needs the funds and he wishes that nothing would be cut from his budget, and actually the money put back that we did have in there that we've now discussed on removing, because he really doesn't have any extra as is. So. And that's my basic report, but we can have a discussion on that, or we can wait till a work session, whatever everybody wants to do.
I'm okay with discussing it now, if you're okay.
I'm okay with it. Well,
Okay. So go ahead. Do you have any questions about it?
no, it makes complete sense. I wish Ed were here, or maybe he could come to the next work session meeting and discuss it with him just a little bit, but it all makes sense, and we have discussed it before, and my impression was we were all on the same page that we thought it made sense, so.
Can I ask, do we have comparables for other townships, like what their
We
water
don't
rates are?
have comparables, but I do know from talking to other towns, we're probably the lowest in the area by at least 50%. I know you take some just private water systems like Ausable Acres, and they're, I think, $600 a year, correct, Steve, in that area? Town of Jay, do you know what their rents are down there?
We're going to be going through what you're going through now, raising, because we've got to go through putting meters in, which you guys already have. So we're already behind the 8 ball.
And then Tina, do you know what Keene is?
Keene is like 626 and Keene Valley's like 926 to 13.
And
low.
we're $180.
We're not meters, yeah. And so,
But Eddie said, I mean, based on the way we have it, we hardly ever get overages either. Very few of the people, maybe 10%, have an overage, and if it is, it's a low overage, which we might get an extra $10 or something, but we're not getting, nobody's hardly ever going like double or triple what we're charging.
Yeah, I don't have my notes, but I had sort of queried other supervisors down in Elizabethtown, and our rates were.
They're very, very reasonable. For what we have for a water system, how up to date we are, we're very reasonable. And if we, wait to act on some of this until the work session, and Eddie does come, I also had discussion with Eddie. Tina had mentioned it the last time about the turn on and turn off, raising that from the $35 along with water taps, because right now the cost of brass and all those parts too, especially a lot of that, if we're breaking even just on parts, but it's not counting any of Eddie's labor in there. So that's something that's got to be addressed as well. So maybe we can revamp all the water rates at the same time.
Nicole, the numbers that we have in the budget for that, does that include what he's speaking about, or was that just the original one that we had thought about?
So we did add some revenue in there for the proposed rate increase. You also had me bump it a little bit on the
The one that Tina was talking about for fees and
connection fees.
yeah.
Or
which,
the on-off, I should, yeah.
but that was very small. I think we might have added like an extra $300 or something like that.
It may be 500, I think, yeah.
I would be interested to know when the last time they were raised is, and what that would be adjusted for inflation, because I'm sure going up $10 or $20 is still below the rate of inflation. Or that would be.
We raised them from 80 to 90.
Okay.
Actually, I might have raised them from only 85, because I went from 80 to 85 and then to 90. And that's been basically since we've started using meters. So maybe over the last 15 to 20 years, they went up $10.
Yeah, I remember when the meters were installed. And that was a while ago.
Those, Genie?
As big as
Started in June.
It started with Jeannie, and then Randy had part of the project.
And do you happen to remember what they were at that time? When they were?
It was $80 flat rate.
So
And basically, what we tried to do is keep it to where our money wasn't always dependent upon the water meters. So we set a really high base rate. so we knew we had guaranteed money coming in, because I think I was the water superintendent at the time. And then the overages would just help offset some of additional costs. But basically, we didn't lower the rates at that point. We put the meters in, kind of kept base rates at the same, and then the overages were what paid the extras. And it's really worked out well to date. I mean, I don't think we've really had any years where we've ever went in the hole that I know of.
So it would be, if other people think we should, I don't have a strong opinion, but I would be open to going higher than the numbers you cited.
Well,
So-
here's sort of my question. It said, let's invite Ed to the work session, get him to give us a list of his numbers. And, but I'm curious because the work session will occur after the November 20th deadline for us to file the final budget. So would they be so different from what we've put in the budget?
Well, we've put a very modest figure in there now, so if we go up above that, it's still going to put us in a better position, not a
Yeah, we're
worse
not
position.
spending more.
Right, it's just
Okay.
putting more revenue back in, so
We're not spending more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, here we are, we're trying to pass a budget. and we're
if it's
telling-
additional at next year, at the end of the year, we'll see that into a surplus, and then we can readjust from there as
Yep.
far as the tax levy.
Okay, so, what do you think? Suggestion we ask Ed to come give us actually, and answer questions from us if we have them about his expenses, and we ask him to come to the work session towards the end of the month.
We would have to make some sort of a resolution to increase them for this budget. Is that not true, or is that true?
If we pass the budget, we've already
Well,
increased
we've
them.
tentatively agreed to do that, it's just we haven't set the actual rates. I
Okay.
think we've all agreed to.
We did go up a little bit, so we're just saying we're gonna go up a little bit more. Okay, thank you.
We're
And maybe-
projecting in the budget that they're going to go up.
Exactly.
Favor. In favor.
So we don't need to make a resolution now. We could wait till Ed. Thank you, Darren. Anything else from your reports?
Not that I can think of.
Okay.
Actually, Colin reached out to me about the music fest, and I believe those meetings are gonna start coming up,
Pretty
so
soon.
I will start updating the board on how that's going and when I'm in contact with Colin. So
Excellent. Laura?
I'm gonna try to make it short and sweet. With you coming, Colin, thank you. I was also wondering if the board might, because in January we talked about having Roost come and do sort of like an update for us. I know they just did an update for Saranac Lake at their board meeting. I was wondering if the board would, I don't know how to reach out to them to see if they would, I know you're on one of the boards there, but,
No, I've resigned from that.
Oh,
That's
okay. well, could you
Yes, I can.
ask
I
them,
know.
maybe at the beginning of the year, we could see if they
Yeah, not a problem.
come and do an update
Just
for
make
what their
sure
plan
I
is
write
for
this down so I don't
marketing
forget
for
it,
us.
because I'll forget it anyway. Ask Bruce to come.
And then I was going through the audits and I was seeing the frontier bills for the beach and for the youth center. And the beach phone is in the lifeguard building, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it's $67.87 a month for 12 months is $814. And if we paused it for 8 months so it's not being utilized on the conservative end, we could save like $500.
Okay.
I was wondering if the board would,
isn't that shared with the youth center, that phone number though?
No, not anymore.
Okay, because it used to be.
You're right, because it was copper line back then and it could be a shared service. You can't now, because the youth center needed upgrading and it needed internet, and so the service needed to be updated, and now it can't share with the beach. That's why the beach had to have its own phone line.
Can we just turn it off and turn it back on?
yes, so
But there's a fee for that.
$5 a month.
If they'll let me do it, because the last time I had this discussion with them, they said they were gonna charge all kinds of fees, more than $5 a month, but I will reach out and ask.
I think it would be worth it. And then the youth center is $132.
Mhm.
And that is infrequently utilized, if at all,
Yep.
for the majority of the year. And that's $1,500 a year. So I think it would be worth looking into if the board felt as such.
The youth center I wasn't even on, because there are people in and out of there.
Yeah, I don't know.
John
when
said
we-
it's like infrequent
Infrequent people,
utilization.
but we don't know when somebody's in there, when they're not, and when
Yeah.
somebody's gonna be at the playground, when somebody's gonna get hurt, when you might need something. I'd hate to have somebody up there and get hurt.
Especially
And
with the
not
skate rink gonna
having-
be
Yeah,
up
when
in
we have the
July.
skate rink
phone
You
system.
open.
still can make 911 calls on pause.
So.
You can still utilize that. I mean, it's not pennies.
I've been in that place 10 times in the past few years or more, and I didn't even know there was a phone. If you can still make 911 calls, I think that's the only thing that we really need a phone there for. And if someone gets hurt on the playground, chances are the youth center is going to be closed anyway. They're not going to be able to get in there.
And there's a million cell phones that, I mean, most
The
people.
youth group isn't using it anymore in the winter? They were having.
That's where they have their
nights and all
meetings, yeah.
kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
They're not doing that anymore?
But do they need a phone and internet? Is the question.
Well, they
Well,
need
the
the internet,
internet.
I guess.
They do need internet because they have kids that come in and do, when they do programs and stuff up there. I guess we're
I
gonna
don't know
ask,
if it's using it or
that.
not.
you might be able to answer that, any programs they have up there, do they still use the internet and stuff like that?
At the youth center? I wouldn't know. I just
Okay.
did the skiing thing.
Okay.
I mean, the board, the people who are on the youth
Well, you
committee
could, you
board,
would know, you live on, do you know if they do the programs up there, do they have internet, I mean?
I don't
been
go to the
doing-
programs,
okay,
but
you're
I
not
go to
doing
some
that?
of their meetings.
Right, that's
and
what I'm asking, that part, are they doing,
They,
like the after
some
school and
members
stuff
of
for that
the,
now or anything?
well,
I know
some,
they were doing those things.
they do use the internet during their meetings somewhat. So, I mean, it is true they use it during their meetings. I don't know beyond that. We don't have a chaperone up there with kids hanging out in there.
Okay.
So,
Oh, I thought the parents were doing it. The youth group. Parents
not that I know
were
of.
supposed to be donating and doing that, no?
Yeah, they were doing it in the evenings. Like they
I'm
were
out of-
doing
I'm out of the
tennis
loop.
and things like that in the evening.
If
I'm
they-
talking a while ago though, so they could have changed it.
Well,
I haven't
anyway.
gotten any minutes or anything from them.
Anyway, I think we need to find out, that's all.
That's it.
You know, whether it's being used. I tend to be, I'm looking at it from, when we have the ice rink open and we get like a good winter this winter and people show up and skate. And if the kids can get in and they're not necessarily, want to make a call, I want to be able to have them make a call, if they don't have a cell phone or something like that. Do they know to dial 911? Maybe, maybe not. But to me, if it's open and there are kids around, I would prefer to see an actual service running. If it's not open and there are no kids around, I don't see the point of having telephone service. So the question is how often is it open and when are there kids around? It's pretty much why the beach has a line like that. They don't want cell phones. It's kind of, it's a backup emergency backup system in case something else goes wrong and you need
I mean, I think as
communicate.
far as the beach, if it is possible to
Okay.
pause it, it makes
Oh,
sense
yeah.
right now.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I mean, the
Completely.
youth center
Absolutely.
being activities in and out of there all year, I think it might put the town more of a liability risk if we didn't have a phone there for people to use and it was only 911. I mean, for a kid to be able to call his parents or a guardian for multiple reasons and they didn't have a cell phone or their cell phone got lost or smashed or any type of thing, I think it's kind of a liability thing that we wouldn't want. I mean, yeah, we might be able to shut it off certain months of the year, but we don't even know how much of a pain in the butt that is to be able to shut it off from, say, September to December. I mean, I'm not against it, but I think we need to find out some logistics before we just say shut it off.
You can lock it for 2 to 9 months at a time and you reactivate it the next day. Maximum 9 out of 12 months. It's a on-off kind of a thing.
I mean, that's for residential, but according to Nicole, it's not been that easy for the towns.
We can find out.
That'd be great.
Anything else, Laura?
Mm-mm.
Okay, thank you. Tina?
All I have is, the library is looking forward to starting their programs in January for the adult workshops. And we'll have a list of those out soon. The egress is completed with all motion lights and everything. CYC had their meeting. We've got a lot of programs coming up that we're gonna be doing. We'll have a list of those soon.
Thank you.
And that's all I have for right now.
And you can report on the Visitors Bureau meeting?
Colin did an excellent job on the Visitors Bureau meeting. He has got letters out going out for vendors to start with getting all the vendors going for the 20th annual, right? Festival of Colors.
Yes.
And Darren said the meetings are gonna be starting for the festival, or for the Music Fest, because they're gonna get bands lined up as soon as they can. So that was two of the things that they are gonna start working on real quick. Colin's got a lot underway. And the town Christmas party.
Yes. I was hoping you'd introduce
We
that.
got a lot going on with that. That's gonna be from 5 to 8. And line up for the parade. There's gonna be a parade that's gonna start at the beach, come down through town, end up at Preston Field. And they're looking for all types of people to join in. There'll be prizes for a lot of different categories. And
4 or 5
then
different categories, TBD tomorrow.
Santa Claus will be also available for the children to come in and see, to get a bag, stocking. That's still up in the air on how that's gonna work. And then the fireworks. So yeah, we're gonna have a good night that day.
So that's the town's part of it.
Yes.
The town will hopefully help Santa get to the right space at the right time. I've got a contract in an email from the longtime fireworks provider, vendor for the town. And we have a Christmas fund set up, and we have enough money to pay the fireworks vendor, and a little extra money left over for providing getting the bags together. And one of the things that is different this year, I mean, I've talked to the guy from the fireworks, and he was so impressed with Wilmington for when everything got canceled during COVID, and no fireworks and no fun. Wilmington went out of its way to create a parade and have the fireworks and do the bit for Santa, going to where the kids were, and he was quite pleased with Wilmington and things like that. So we did that for a couple of years, but it was sort of discussed and felt we could go probably back to something a little bit more conventional, where we gather in the center of town. Weather hopefully will cooperate. We'll have a beautiful snowy evening, and try to do a parade and a festival at the fields for the kids.
Is that Peter Henry? Is his name Peter? Oh, that's okay.
I can look up.
And the one thing we are gonna have a little bit of a difficult with, that we're actually asking everybody to get out the word about, is we won't be going door to door this year with the parade. The parade's gonna come from the beach to Preston Field, so we won't be going door to door to hand out the bags. So they're gonna be coming to us to see Santa, to get their gift. So that's gonna be one of the things that are gonna be a little bit different this year, that we need to get out to the general public, that we're not gonna come to your house to see your child. You're gonna come to see us now and see Santa.
To that end, the parade route is listed on the posters that are around town. It says that the parade starts at the beach and ends at Preston Field. So it is outlined.
So people that don't read the poster or don't see it, and we just wanna make sure people see that understand that. So anybody that can spread that word, that would be great.
Are the posters done?
Yes,
Posters are done, and I
Yes.
just hung one out.
yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'll put it on the website.
So anybody that does see it on somebody's page, share it as much as you can, so it's out and shared as much as we can get it shared.
I'll send you a neat copy tomorrow morning.
Okay,
Okay, put it up on.
Thank you.
and that, all those dates?
Yeah, I have those,
Thanks.
before I leave you.
Anything else, Tina?
No.
Thank you for doing my report.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Could I just mention about the parade, and to add on to some of the things Faber said, I think that the parade going door to door during COVID, I believe that was pretty much all Roy and all Roy's doing. So, I mean, we have to give him credit for that. I give him credit for that. Previously, prior to COVID, wasn't that event at Santa's workshop? And it seemed like that was hard to think of a better place for that type of event. So could that event be at Santa's workshop in the future? Has that been discussed at all?
Can I give background on that?
Yes, please.
The reason that it moved away from Santa's workshop mostly was due to costs.
Okay.
And what Santa's workshop wanted to charge us to be able to just use the venue for the night was quite substantial, especially when we're like, but we also are bringing you business in your shops and throughout the park for the whole evening, and they still wanted to charge us on top of that. So that's why it kind of got away from that, and the town had decided that they could do the event the way they were doing it at the time, cheaper than doing it through Santa's, and then COVID happened and it kind of went way away from Santa's. But originally it got switched mostly because of costs and what they wanted to charge us for it, because they weren't willing to so much partner with the town, they wanted to profit from the town.
That's too bad. I wonder, maybe at some point that could be revisited, because it did seem like that was a very good place for that event. Maybe next year, obviously it's too late this year, but maybe they're under new.
It was very fun.
Maybe they have different management or would think about it differently now.
Okay, thank you. So back to old business, we're gonna go look at the budget some more, further discussion, and see whether we can take some action to create a final budget. So last week, Nicole and I sat down, we had our consultant here, and talked about some of the concerns that the board had brought up at the first the budget workshop and then the public hearing about basically increasing the revenues. And so the first revenue increase would have been the bed tax would have been increased to $80,000. And that we came up with various appropriations for the $80,000. Originally, we were considering the playground equipment, the Visitors Bureau beautification, and the insect control, the BTI, $20,000 would have been from that. We've lifeguard sales, concerts, the beach expenses. If you sum total those up, that would be $80,000. So that was a $25,000 increase. $20,000 increase from what the preliminary budget had. The other is the water district, and again, as Darren was alluding, Ed is a little reluctant to see us sort of shift around the revenues to this extent. Because of the concerns he has for some of the costs that are increased for him. He's already sort of running on a very tight, sort of a tight line. And so one of the things that we were discussing is that we go back to the original water district revenue part and ignore the suggested changes that were put in last week. One of the things that reminded me of, we're going to be, the town has had the county got a large grant to hire an engineering company to come in and itemize every piece of equipment, every asset that our water districts have, our water department, the various things in the plants, the various machines. They took all of the sort of product IDs from it, and they put in the probable usefulness. And this group will want to come and talk to the community. Probably in December, I'm trying to schedule the date. They can come in front of the board and make their presentation of what they found. But among the things that they show is we have a very old water plant. At this point, it's old. And many of the parts are obsolete and not replaceable and not fixable. And there's a list of those. And Ed reminded me today that if we're starting to, go so tight to the edge with our budget, we're going to run up against, some of these things are going to actually fail. And we won't have budgeted funds saved up to help replace those items. It's not, if they're going to fail, it's when. And they're obsolete and they can't be replaced. And he does a magnificent job keeping everything going as well as he can. But the engineers will come and show us, and Ed is worried and concerned that we will going in a direction for searching for more revenues to keep things going. We'll get to the point where he will have no room to maneuver, and something fails, and it's a $30,000 part or something, and we have to buy a new one from they don't make those anymore, whatever it is. And we will not have budgeted for it. We won't have money to have a contingency fund, I suppose, but we don't have the world's largest fund balance. And so, the other options for communities are to borrow, because it's part of the water plant and needs to be up and running. It's a vital function. Borrow the money, and now that's at 6 and 7%. So he's concerned that we may have gone a little too far with this part of the part one. So that was what he talked to me about today. But in any event, let's open it up to discuss the budget.
Darren, when you were talking about the increase in the fees, was that to equal out these items here?
So
Was that the goal?
when we originally had these increased numbers in here, it would have been an increase to the tax levy.
Right.
With raising the fees, we basically kept the tax levy even, but we didn't cut the tax levy. So the only way to do that, and that was, I believe, raising it from 90 to 100. If we raised it to say 110, we could keep the increased fees and do a reduction in the tax levy. But 100 basically just keeps the tax levy as is, which covers the increases. With a $10 increase, a $20 increase per half would decrease the tax levy and allow the increases.
Okay.
But that's something that we'd have to basically almost decide on as a majority of the board and say, well, our minimum increase then is going to be $20 twice a year, or else we can't do both. If we don't agree with that tonight, then I wouldn't be comfortable plugging in anything else in the budget and say we're going to do both unless we agree that we're going to do a minimum of a $20 increase. Am I speaking
That would be the
correctly,
110.
Nicole?
That's the 110.
Yes.
Okay.
So, I mean, this has gotten even more confusing. We're somewhat of a game of telephone. I was very cheered and optimistic when I heard that all of this money was being subtracted from the tax levy. But I agree with what everyone else is suggesting, that if this is just going to gut the water department and have them on the knife's edge, then that makes no sense. So that's obviously not the way we want to go. So at this point, doing the math here is quickly, it looks like we're $40,200 away from hitting the tax cap. We need to find $40,000 in revenue or additional spending cuts if we're going to stay under that tax cap.
The 80,000, I understand where that came from. I would like to ask the board to increase the actual line items for those bed tax uses to the actual what we have in the preliminary budget, so that it matches. So like for insect control, instead of it being only $20,500 from bed tax money, I would like it to be the actual $20,700. So it would be $83,700 of roost for bed tax money instead of $80,000.
Where's the 3,700? I thought what's the insect control you
So
said?
if I could explain maybe, by using 80,000 of bed tax money, we went through the insect control, the visitors bureau, playground, et cetera. The 80,000, keeping it even like that, you weren't gonna be able, you were gonna have to pay $200 of black fly control out of.
General fund.
Out of general fund. And also, it didn't completely cover the lifeguard salaries. And that's where she's coming up with the
Oh, okay.
3,700.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? I'm okay with it.
I mean, I guess I'll go along with it in the sense of next year, I'm not gonna be okay with continuing to use 17,000 for playground equipment. And those funds be re-evaluated somewhere else, I'm fine for this 1 year. But again, based on year to year, and we never know what rentals are gonna be. I mean, once we start climbing into the $83,000, $85,000 range and, you know, not knowing what we're gonna get, I understand that our fees have always been more than that, or what we receive back from the county. It's just, those funds were designated from the county to, you know, be increased tourism or used for tourism related items. I'm not saying that anything on here can't be classified as that, but I don't feel like we're actually using those funds for what they were intended for. Those funds were supposed to be used to increase tourism through enhancements to certain areas. And I don't feel like spending them on lifeguard salaries or BTI is a tourism enhancement, or that the community is benefiting out of the tourism created by paying for those events. So I hate to see us keep going in the $80,000, $85,000 and pushing the money into those types of positions, because the town's not getting benefit in the way it should out of those funds and what they were intended to be used for.
I disagree. I mean, I think having black fly control absolutely impacts our visitors, and also the lifeguards are primarily there for the visitors.
I wouldn't say that's true at all. I mean, we've had lifeguards always at that beach, and you know,
but now we have an increased revenue source. Why not utilize it for that?
I know, but I still feel like those funds, and that's what a lot of these other towns designated these funds for, you know, like sidewalks, increasing their playgrounds, building pavilions, all of these things that are supposed to be used to enhance the community.
I think those two are very enhancing.
Having extra lifeguards enhances our community.
Safety.
It makes them.
Safety.
I don't agree with those funds are being used for. So.
I have a question, Nicole. This is what I wanted to ask you. So when you said that the extra money from that was left over, say if we had 100, we use 60. There's 40 left over. You said that goes into the fund balance. If we don't say we put it in reserve.
Yes.
So that goes into the general fund balance?
Yes.
Okay. So how is that money being used? Like if Darren is saying that money can only be utilized for tourism enhancement, if we're rolling it into the general fund, isn't that even not utilizing that at all?
Correct. It's just going into your fund balance.
Okay. So I don't know why we're being so picky about the things that actually, I mean, in my opinion, I think that these things are all tourism related. I think, and the playground equipment is a one-time thing. It's been talked about for 3 years. We're finally
And I said that it's fine.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't believe that the other ones are, that fund was never intended to pay salaries and things like that. That fund was to do enhancements to a community. Salaries are not part of enhancement.
I think
So
the
you're
lifeguards
thinking
enhance.
There was a resolution passed at one point to pay for that equipment out of this money, the bed tax money.
Correct.
Right,
Yeah,
Out of what we already had set aside.
right.
We also made a resolution to pay for the lifeguard salaries with the tax money.
Yeah, we did that this year.
Yeah.
for this year.
With the
For this year.
new
We're
supervisor,
just saying going forward, that it's.
thinking differently.
So can I bring up a point related to this
Go ahead.
conversation? Thanks. So, you know, in 2023, unallocated bed tax money was like 55,000, just, 54,400 something. And so that's just gone into the,
It becomes fund balance at the end of the year unless the board passes a resolution to do something specific with it.
But you also have, you said, that number set aside from what's been left from years previous in there. So it's not part of a slush fund. You do know how much has been left aside from those funds over the past years.
Yes,
what is that number?
I don't have that in front of me.
So at the end of this year, we take the leftover and we put it in reserve. That's
You
what you're
can,
recommending?
Yes,
Okay.
so in December, when you do a work session toward the end of the month, that's when you could look at, okay, we actually recognize this much of revenue. We only spent this.
Yeah.
This is the difference. What do you want to do with it?
But you gotta be very careful when you're putting in a reserve.
Yes.
Because when you start putting things into a reserve, and you do a 2/3 account, you're putting things, then you're gonna report that to your AUD, which the state can come in and really start auditing things. And then when you're playing with the taxpayers' money, there's a lot of rules that go along with putting things in a reserve.
We already have it reserved.
So I'm just saying, when you start doing things with reserves, it's a lot more complicated than dealing with taxpayers' money than if you were just putting it into fund balance and dealing with it that way.
But that's not taxpayer money.
So I'm just saying,
This is not taxpayer money. That's why,
when you put things into a reserve,
but this money is not taxpayer
It's
money.
still taxpayers'
It's
money,
still
regardless of
taxpayer
whether
It's not part of the tax levy.
it
It's
doesn't
part-
matter, it's still taxpayers' money. When it gets paid back to the town, it's taxpayers'
Taxpayers'
money. Every bit of fund balance that we got owns to the taxpayers, all a chunk of that.
Is from the community enhancement funds.
It's
This
not
is
looked
from
at
the
that
town.
way, though. It's
Well,
still looked at as taxpayers' money.
It is the people who pay that revenue to the Airbnbs. That's where that money comes from.
But when
And
it
then
comes
goes
back to the town, it becomes part of the town budget, which is taxpayers' money.
Still,
So we should use it to pay down the levy.
we can't.
That was a joke.
I know.
But it just seems like we are already, like it's going into the fund balance. We don't know where it's gone. We don't know how
She
much
does have that
there is.
total.
I just don't have the numbers in front of me. I wasn't prepared to answer that.
It seems like it seems from looking at the numbers, as far as I can understand, it should be like 200,000. But I don't know, we don't
I don't
have.
have that.
Because 2023, it was 55,000 left over, and 2022.
I mean, there's just been tons of projects that have been talked about through the town over the years. There was a master plan been done from the town in the 80s, and some of that's happened, some of it hasn't. And, the beach was one of the things that happened. We did buy Preston Field, I believe, at one point out of that money. And then some of the improvements that's happened there. The next step logically was to go to the park and do a whole revamp. And then I'm not lobbying towards another skating rink pavilion or anything at this point. But let's be truthful. I mean, there hasn't been an upgrade in that area since the 80s. So in a market where you have to pay prevailing wages and everything, we sit here and we talk about $200,000. $200,000 would be pretty much gone in engineering fees to be able to redo that area. So, I mean, I don't agree that, $200,000, oh, wow, we got all this money. That's gone in a blink of an eye when you start upgrading an area just in engineering fees the way the state mandates stuff.
I mean, you could look at it the other way, and that's you could stay within the tax cap for 5 years with that $200,000, which is $40,000 shy at this point.
But you can't because it has to be spent on those type of items, Tim.
Doesn't seem like it.
So, I mean, it's sort of a race to the bottom to keep ourselves at a minimum level of tax the whole time. It doesn't require an enormous disaster for us to be suddenly looking at an inability to pay for certain things. A couple of weeks ago, the cost to repair a sidewalk in Jay was way more than we can possibly hope to pay for. And so we get into these kinds of discussions about where's this 50,000 here, 50,000 there, and it's depressing to tell this, but the numbers. So for the grant that we just signed a contract for is $300,000 to study, sedimentation patterns, in the Ausable River. The town, it's $400,000 total contract cost, $100,000 of which is a local promise. This is to pay people their engineering rates so they can go around and do their sedimentation stuff. The moment you talk about any kind of project that requires state specifications, you're getting involved with a group of people who charge quite a bit of money, and there are a lot more zeros attached to it than the stuff that we're working on. Go ahead.
Just to add to that too, we've mentioned sidewalks a couple times, and I know a couple of the neighboring towns, which is very much tourism related, because to be able to walk through town and go to different places and stuff like that. Our sidewalk tractor is fairly old now, and John said it's going to have to be replaced in the next few years, along with his truck and all the work that he does in the areas in the parks and beach and everything with his truck. I mean, a new truck with a plow now, he's looking at over $50,000, and probably would replace that tractor is over $40,000. So, I mean, within the next 2 or 3 years, both of those things are going to have to be replaced, and there's $90,000 gone. That is a legitimate expense out of that category.
May I just say the municipal expenditure of Essex County occupancy tax revenue document states that any unexpended funds at the end of the year shall be designated in a restricted fund balance account for future appropriations.
Well, that's them. The county's is worried about, the county could keep all this money. The county is the only authorized governmental body. They have to get permission from the state to raise a kind of tax like this. The state gives them permission. They could raise this tax. It could all be sent down to Elizabethtown and the quarter, and the county could keep it. They have a contract with Roost, so they're legally obligated to pay some of that out to Roost. But the county, it's their tax money. So if they put strings on it for us, they want to send it back out to the towns, that's fine. They'll do it. I think, we setting up reserve accounts, that's a good idea. I'd like to see what the numbers are at the end of the year when we set up the right kind of reserve accounts, always understanding that it's much more complicated accounting rules with reserve accounts. And that's probably why many municipalities prefer, sort of the unappropriated fund balance kind of idea, because that gives them more flexibility to face certain problems, and that can also lead to trouble. Tim.
The law that created this bed tax at the county level states that the money is to be returned to the towns at a rate roughly commensurate to the amount that was drawn from the towns in bed tax money.
But that's how. But that was the so that's the agreement they got. So Lake Placid, would participate. Right? Lake Placid felt like they were going to be totally taken to the cleaners by the other 17 towns in the county, because they're the ones who generated the most bed tax. That's just part of political negotiation that went into the law. So that's my.
But if that law ever gets amended and the county all of a sudden says, "Oh, we're not going to pay you 3%, we're only going to pay you 2%," well, or take it away regardless of the fact, and we've been counting on that money for all these years right to the max, and something passes, and then all of a sudden we're scratching our heads because now we're in the hole. That's why I don't want to push it much higher than we already have.
Thank you. So let's see now. So we're looking at the preliminary budget that we passed. Can we agree to amend the preliminary budget by resolution to increase the revenues generated from the bed tax to 83,000 what, Nicole?
700.
83,700. And to appropriate it based on the actual specific numbers, insect control, visitors bureau, playground equipment, beautification, lifeguard salaries, concerts, and beach expenses. So do you have those numbers, Nicole? Like what the actual?
Yeah, so you want me to go through each one?
Yeah, why not?
So insect control would be 20,700. Visitors Bureau, 14,000. Playground equipment, 17,000. Beautification, 3,500. Lifeguard salaries, 22,000. Concerts, 4,500. And beach expenses at 2,000.
Okay. So, may I have a motion to amend the preliminary budget to include the additional revenue line as described by Nicole?
Make it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Tim?
Aye.
Laura?
Yes.
I don't have my list.
Darren? I did this last week, I'll do it. Darren?
No.
Laura?
Yes.
Tina?
Yes.
Favor, yes. So it carries. Any other amendments to the budget?
There is so much to discuss in here. I mean, now we're at 37,000 to stay within, we need to find 37,000 to stay under the tax cap. I think we can do it. I think we just need to keep working on it. I think that there are other sources of revenue. The estimated revenue we have from sales tax is lower than the amount we'll actually get. The same with STR fees. They're both, tens of thousands lower than, it is true that a nuclear bomb could happen and the world could go into a depression. That is true. However, the trends every year, these numbers have been more. I think that if everything stays the same with STRs, we'll be at 61,000 in our budget. We're at 40 or we're at 45. So we could go to 50 and that's still not going to 60. So, and there are definitely places where I think we can save money too. I know to some people $3,000 is meaningless. I think that we should look at those places where we can save those $3,000 here and there. So I think we should have another meeting and keep working on it.
Can I just remind you of one thing?
Yes.
You, as a board, haven't decided what you're doing with the water budget. If you're going to leave it as the preliminary budget, not the proposal, then that's 15,000 back in. I just want to remind you that.
So I don't know, there's so many numbers. Where I got the 40,000 from, I would have to sit here and look at it and think about it, and in front of 20 people, I can't do that. But when I asked you, you said that 40,000 is roughly correct as far as the gap.
At the proposal, okay.
I got it. It would be 55,000 basically if we put the water back in, but then we're going to have to definitely agree on increasing water rents to 110 to take that 15,000 back out.
Also, we added 20,000 in bed tax, so that's where I got the 40.
Okay. We're gonna go back to the preliminary budget that was accepted by the board.
Yep,
Okay.
yes.
So at that one, that brought us to give me 1 second, not the wrong figure here. We were 50,923 over at the preliminary budget.
Meaning the gap between meeting the tax cap and what our levy is going to be.
Correct.
50,923.
Yes. Now, with the proposed changes, that brought you to, excuse me. I've got myself confused with all these numbers now. I had it down to 3.9 using that 50, the figures that I just gave you, brought it down to 3.9. If you put the 15 back into the water, that's gonna bring us to 5% even.
Even with adding the 20 from bed tax?
Yes. It's still
Okay.
using that 20, but putting the 15 back in water.
What do you think, what is the gap? The gap, what we're estimating to raise in the property tax levy, the gap between what the 2% tax cap would be, with what we're allowed to raise while staying within that 2%, which is like 26,000, I think.
Right.
Right. So, and then what is the gap between what we're projecting to raise in the tax levy and that 26,000? You said we're at, so I think we should have another special meeting on the budget where we can.
No, okay. I'm not, we can vote on it. So right
I'll make
now,
a motion, we should have a special meeting.
that's fine, but I'm in charge of the motion right now. So the motion is to adopt the preliminary budget. I think Darren's pointed out that when we sit down and talk about the water rates with Eddie, it's going to reduce the levy by the 15,000.
If we go to 110.
That's what I'm saying. If it's discussed, I mean, that's where we can reduce the
We have
levy
to go to
to
110.
back to the 3-point-something% that Nicole is
The
discussing.
preliminary budget.
Minus a little bit more because we added 3,000 more in the other. So it would probably be at like 3.7 or something.
Okay, so, I mean, that's still open, but right now, I'm gonna make a motion to accept those as the changes to the preliminary budget and adopt the same as the final budget, so we can submit this to the county. That's a motion.
I'll second the motion with those changes being enacted in the water budget.
Yeah, put the water back in.
So,
So you'd be increasing the revenues another 15, as much as you just did again. But putting Eddie's money back the way it was, but then we're gonna increase it again another 15,000 in revenue.
So leave it at the preliminary.
Yes. But increase revenues another 15,000 and take that 15,000 off from the tax levy. From water rents.
Okay.
I would like to see this on paper before I vote on it, to be honest with you.
no,
There's so many hypotheticals.
What's hypothetical? I mean, basically,
I mean,
the
we're
only,
throwing
two
numbers.
things.
no, the only change that we've made to the preliminary budget is the thing that was put in about the revenues.
We've made $3,700 in changes to general fund, and we're increasing water revenues approximately 15,000. Those are the only two changes we went. There's nothing hypothetical.
Correct. Adding in.
Darren, I need clarification, I'm
This
sorry.
is what I'm saying.
The actual preliminary budget
Mhm.
was
Based on $100 water rent.
correct.
And we're saying base the revenues off from $110 water rent.
I get that.
Mhm.
But the preliminary also had the tax levy at the same as it was for 24.
Correct.
Is that what I'm still doing?
No, you're gonna put it to the preliminary budget.
That is the preliminary budget. That's why.
Without doing any of these cuts that you just proposed, leaving the cuts, or leaving it the way it was proposed,
Right,
and then increasing the water rents again in the revenue department, which would then come off from the tax levy and not come out of Eddie's budget.
okay, so you want me to reduce the tax levy?
With the additional, the first increase that we proposed, which was to 100, basically just paid for Eddie's increases. The second increase, which we're saying tonight, to 110, used to decrease the tax levy. Correct, Tina?
Yes.
Can you write that down for me so I make this resolution the right way?
Well, we can't really, we haven't changed the water rents yet, so
Oh, I thought you were voting on this now.
we were gonna talk to Eddie
First, before we vote on this.
before we agree.
That makes sense, you know.
All we're doing is plugging in a figure for projected revenues from water rents.
Okay,
All we're doing is basically agreeing on a projected revenue.
okay.
Yeah, the revenue gets set. We know what we're spending.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, and so the budget is, based on sort of what we're conjecturing to be the revenue. Okay, and so we know what the expending, that hasn't changed. What we're saying is that we're going to conjecture that we're going to have at least $83,700 of bed tax money that we can apply towards those appropriations. That one's straightforward, the BTI, the blah, 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 blah. The other thing is that we are going to set, we are, as a placeholder, putting in water rates at 110 so that we can finalize this budget. And then we will set the revenue, and that will affect the levy when the levy is made in January. That's when everyone will know what the levy is.
Do you have a business rate too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is double. So it'll be 220 base rate every 6 months.
All right, so we started with the motion in a second.
So to alleviate my own complete confusion, to stay within the tax cap, we can increase the tax levy by 26,300. How much we don't know how much we're increasing the tax levy by at this point? Do we know? And if so, what is that number?
I'm sorry,
Because it's basically going to be the same. What's the 3.9% increase? Because basically we're more or less staying with this
We're just funding
proposal.
Just switching where the money is
right, so the preliminary budget as offered was at 3.9.
No, as this proposed, he's asking.
Of the proposed rate. I don't know.
You mean the updated or the,
6.7.
that's where we're staying at?
No,
No.
that's where it was.
Right, but at 3.9? We're staying at 3.9 roughly, then the gap is 40,000, and I think we can find that money. You know, we have a cleaner at 3,000, we're going to hire a new office employee. We can get rid of that 3,000 and assign that to the new office employee. We have a deputy town clerk, we're going to hire a new office employee. How do we need a deputy town clerk? Like, we should be looking at all of this. We should be looking at STR fees on home vacation rentals. If those go up by $100.
No salary unless she does something when I'm not here. Wait, like the meeting, you'll have to pay her out of, because of the meeting. But she has no salary.
I know, but we're getting into the weeds.
Yes,
Okay.
as we should. And as we should get that down below 3.9, and we could if we wanted to. Apparently the rest of the board doesn't want to, so we won't.
So let's go back to what the motion was.
We'll also be getting money from facilities use fees.
Can I please, the motion, I have the floor, please.
So we're in discussion.
We're not, I'm making, the motion was to amend the preliminary budget to include the bed tax, increase in revenue in the bed tax to $83,700. The appropriations were outlined by Nicole.
You already did.
I know, I'm just reiterating because we got lost. And the second part is that we are going to continue staying with the, we're going to amend the water district revenue by increasing the water rate charges to 110 as a placeholder, and that there be no other amendments. Is that right?
No.
Correct. That's correct?
No,
So that's
you're
the-
moving, aren't we moving money out of the tax levy? Isn't that what the discussion was? The last part of that? Don't we have
By
to move that
increasing the
number?
rates, that's
By
what he's saying.
Right, but we have to change that number as well, right?
Yeah, it will change. As soon as we add that revenue into the,
I
it will
need to see
change.
it on paper. I'm sorry.
I think we should have another meeting about the budget. I don't know why.
I'll second it.
I don't know why the refusal to have that
You
meeting.
already did second it.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Tim,
Obviously, we should have another meeting. No.
Jared,
Yes.
Laura,
Nope.
Tina.
Yes, I understand.
Tina, I can't hear you.
Yes.
Favor?
Yes, carried. Thank you. So the next thing on the agenda is a discussion about the permit fees and forms. I don't think we'll be taking any action tonight. I'm going to be getting a copy of what they do in Minerva. Minerva seems to be face the same sorts of rental questions with their town beach and pavilions and parks and things like that. I've submitted 4 or 5 different versions for the board to consider. What I'd like the board to do is work on how much they believe the fee should be for permits, so that we can set them at our work session or at the regular board meeting in December. So that's more or less, I've drafted 2 myself. I've taken other examples. I took one from the town of Provincetown, and things like that, so that the board, we can adopt something to go forward with in 2025. I was going to say 26. I don't know. And then we will be able to give it out to Colin and others, so that they know what it is that the town requires of them to use our fields and our facilities and things like that. So
Which facilities are we going to include in this?
I said beach, heritage park. Originally, I drafted one. I said beach, heritage park, festival field, and park. Park. Is that the right name for it? Park?
Beach, festival field, heritage park, and park.
Yeah. So that's
what we were going to do.
yeah. And so they check the box, they fill in the form, they leave a check, they provide their insurance coverage, and we'll have at least we'll know with a calendar now that Colin's given us a nice one. What's up? And people who want to use the beach pavilion for family get-togethers, that's fine. We just basically write it on the calendar and try our best not to. Somebody's interested in a wedding, we won't let them have it. Stuff like that.
I've got 2 questions. The first is, we went through this, I believe in 2022, and approved the facilities use form, but it was never implemented. Does anyone know why it was not implemented?
Well, there are 2 things. One is we don't have perhaps enough help for people to actually manage that. The second was it was drafted as a lease, and my own inclination as an attorney is I don't like to see the word lease. They're not leasing anything. It's a permit. I know they adopted one and things like that, but it really I didn't think much of the form personally, and I didn't send it out to everybody. And when the year came up, I'd given dates, and the first person who came to see the board was the Ride to the River guy, and I'm looking at it like, okay, let's just follow the regular form, but it didn't work. So as the year went on, I just think it would be cleaner for the town and better, protects us better.
No, I agree that what you've given us to review is better than what we had. I just don't know why. I guess I sort of know why what we had was never actually used.
Yeah.
But my other question is, I hate to see us create more unnecessary bureaucracy. We're talking about a reservation system for like kids' parties at the beach.
No.
No. Okay.
No. I just said call the town hall. We got a calendar.
So that is. I mean, is that really a
You're
problem?
not charged for it.
I know, but is it really a problem that there's conflicting parties?
Not often, but you certainly don't want to have, let's say, Tina's family wants to use the pavilion at the beach on, August 30th. And then I get, somebody else gets a phone call saying, we're going to have this reunion on the 30th too. And I don't know it and she doesn't know it. So we just put it on the calendar.
I think we've always said in the past, one of the reasons that it wasn't used, it was only for bigger events like Ride for the River or something like that, because we said that we would never hold the pavilion for private parties.
Yeah, we just say that. I just, people get their
It's just marked there, first come, first served.
first come, first served.
It's just marked on the calendar so people know, okay, yes, you're gonna be there, but this is going on, first come, first served. You guys are sharing the space.
Yeah.
Along with any locals that happen to be at the beach that day.
So if someone calls and they're on the calendar, but some other group gets there first.
That's it.
First come, first served. You tell them that when you say.
Yeah, we know that.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here. Okay, new business. We have the town employee EMT discussion. So who would like to start with that?
I'd like to know the backstory on it and where the listing came from, the job description and pay, hours? I
Yeah.
mean, I think there's more
Yeah.
to this than just a listing.
Okay, so Brooke resigned, and she gave me a letter around September 16th, 17th or so, saying that she was her last day would be September 29th. I basically didn't give it much of a thought after, because my mom passed away on the 20th, and I wasn't really thinking about any of that stuff. So I didn't remember to pass it along, but also at the same time, it pretty much was, everyone around here knew that Brooke's last day would be at the end of the month. The fire department, this position, it just seemed like it was a good opportunity for the town to, we can't create the new position that the town really needs, which is clerical help in the town hall. So because the town has has cooperated with the fire department to share the services of a paid EMT for a couple years, Brooke's departure basically meant that we had a spot open right now, and so I had discussed it with the parks. I knew from the parks department that having 3 people on year round was take plenty of periods of time where they don't need it. And then I talked with people from the fire department, and they need somebody to be hired as soon as we can. And so I took the job description from the county for a clerical position, and I put it up. And if it were up to me, if I didn't have the fire department, I'd have been content to wait till the new year and draw up a new position and things like that. And then we would have saved the town the cost of the salary from October 1st to December 31st for the year when we didn't need the extra employee. But that wasn't the situation. So we had 2 people who have applied, but we haven't followed up with them because I know the board wants to talk about it. And that's what we did.
For you, to help with you and John? Okay.
Well, and general duties, because we've always had people like Nancy or other people in there to answer phones. People are on vacations. The town hall's left unstaffed, things like that.
Where will they sit?
My office. Big table.
It seems like a lot of
Downstairs, whatever.
clerking for, and I know there's a lot, but I just feel like it's been, I don't even know the structure. Like, how long have we had a clerk and a town clerk and needed more people?
Town clerk we've always had,
Right, but I mean,
but there
it's
didn't
just,
used to be, back in the day, as much duties that needed to be done. Nicole needs somebody to help her. She needs an assistant.
Until somebody does what Nicole does, I don't think somebody really knows what Nicole does.
I didn't even know what I did until I was doing it, and it's like, oh my God,
Right.
this will be a help for you.
Yes.
Between doing insurance, Medicare reimbursement, Medicaid, billing, ordering, processing, vouchering, paying bills, and then on top of that, everyday duties, there's a lot to be done. And then when you have to do your year ends, your quarterlies, your AUDs, your reports, and your banking, balancing the checkbooks, ordering supplies, whatever else might come along the desks of everything else of all the other departments, there's a lot to do for one person.
We also can't forget, the one thing that nobody has mentioned in there. I mean, Nicole's job title is clerk to the supervisor.
No, I'm not.
You're not clerk to the
I'm
supervisor?
account clerk. I took the test. I'm account clerk.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, she had been
She's
used
not like
as
yours.
clerk to the supervisor.
You lost her.
So she does help the supervisor with various duties, regardless of what her title is. That's always been that position. if Avery needs help typing up things. I mean, she does a lot more than just account stuff. She helps with Favor with tons of things all the time, and I'm sure Favor will attest to that.
Oh, yes.
So there's a lot that goes in for one person to do a job. But on top of that, and then I'm assuming there's might be days that Doug might need something, there might be something that Don needs. And
Oh, we have to follow, we got a notice from the New York State DOT on the contracts for next year. That's the stuff that Nicole helps process. Payrolls every week. Thanks, Colin.
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, she's also part of Louis' help.
Exactly. So she said, in other towns, you'll have a clerk who's working exclusively for the highway department as well. They'll have, to me, I happen to know that New York State has just ratcheted up, what they expect us to provide. The county has expectations for paperwork that needs to get supplied. And it doesn't really, it doesn't diminish, it doesn't decrease. And the payables, I was hoping that whoever came in would get trained by Nicole to handle the things that could get her to work on like higher accounting kinds of skills. This year she's had to work so hard to switch from Quicken to the new software. We've had help from Kathy from Minerva coming in all the time. We're almost got it settled. It spent the entire year on that project. And then she has to turn around and in comes the, we need to write the check for the Christmas fund, or I need to, all sorts of things come across her desk. And it would be of a great help to her and to the town so things don't get dropped. If something gets dropped, then you're sitting there saying, oh, well, I dropped that. I missed that one. And, she doesn't feel great about making people unhappy or making an error. Nobody does. But it just accumulates. She's the HR person, so all the questions. So we had a retiree this year. So all the questions about carrying over the insurance or going to the Medicaid, getting to this, getting to that, cutting a check every month to help pay for the Medicaid, whatever. That's a lot of work. And to do that on top of answering phones, dealing with people coming in looking for notaries, whatever. It seems to me I could take a look at it and see that's what the town really needs is help inside the town hall. But we can't afford a new one. And right now, so long as the state allows us to split with the fire department for a professional EMT, those days are numbered probably, but we might as well take advantage of it. And we keep it at Brooke's salary, basically.
Nicole, I'm a total control freak and I can't delegate at all. So I just wanted to make sure this was something that would benefit you and not be like a thorn in your side. So I know you do an enormous amount of work, you and Don. Not disputing that at all. I know how hard it is to train people.
It is. I think once the person is trained, it will be a huge asset to me. My list is about 20 pages long of the things that I do.
Yeah.
It would take a lot off of me. It takes me, Favor can attest to it, Tina, I'm sure you can too. You're at it all the time. It takes me an entire day to get the vouchers in for you guys to go through. They're very time consuming.
Sure.
And it wouldn't be full-time here, because I say she, because those are the only two applicants we have, but first job is to go to the firehouse in the morning, make sure the ambulances are ready to go, and then probably around 2 o'clock or whatever, head over to the firehouse and work for us for a couple hours. 5 days a week, Monday to Friday.
Yes.
People who are interested, they should contact you.
Well, they're applying here, and then whoever will be the
Interviewer.
Will they be hired by the town board, or will it be a town board decision?
They are a town employee.
Yeah, so
because you guys already have the retirement and the
health insurance,
and we all know that's the biggest part of your budget. But you've already set up, so that's why we split the cost down the middle. You actually get a little more out of it than we do, but we're okay with
I appreciate that, Joe.
And they respond to any calls that come in at
it.
any
That's the other
time.
thing, they have to go on the calls whenever they go.
The applicants are already EMTs?
One is, one isn't, but the second one that isn't is in a course already.
Okay.
So we're better off than we were originally, because we had to send Brooke to EMT.
One thing from my perspective that the town needs is someone to research what grants are available, because as everything we've said tonight suggests, some of the things the crying needs cannot be funded through property taxes and will require grants. And I would like to see the town, I would like to see the town have someone research what grants are available, state, national, private, and submit grant applications. And that job could be part of this job, and that part of this job, I know this is going to be controversial to some, could be paid through bed tax, not property tax.
Okay.
I know that's a lot there, but if I had been included in these conversations, I would have suggested this. We were kind of blindsided by all of this, and this was presented to us as a done deal. We were unaware of any of it.
So I guess when it really comes down to it, Tim, I wouldn't say, I mean, I didn't get the letter either, but in the end, there's nobody blindsided, and we're not creating a new position. It's been a position that's been within the town. So it's not like all of a sudden we've took an employee, we've rehired a parks employee, and now we're hiring a clerical position. It's just switching, rather than working in parks, they're now working in the town hall. That's the only thing that's happened.
It is a totally new position.
I understand, but what I'm saying
Financially,
is,
it's not different, but it is a totally new position.
it's switching from one department from another department. We're not adding another employee. We're still going to have the same amount of employees in town.
You can understand why we would have been surprised when everyone else knew about this.
I didn't know about it either until we started discussing
That's
it.
not true.
100%.
I didn't know.
When we started talking about it, and the budget was the first I'd heard about
What
it.
you said was John suggested it,
That was through Favor.
so you knew about it.
Favor obviously did.
I did.
He's a supervisor.
Tim, to get back to the grants, there used to be somebody at the county level that
Always-
wrote grants.
There's still a,
But do they
Right.
do
But
they
you've
let the
got to remember
towns?
with those grants, there's a matching thing.
yes.
And sometimes that's real hard to come up with.
Just a minute, Dan. Yes,
Fair
we do have
Fair
somebody at the county, and she's getting overrun by all the town. Yes, Dan.
Just to mention this, Brooke was actually the third person who has held that job. We've been doing it how long? 10 years.
This is gonna be the fourth one.
It's a really good deal for this town. I'm surprised more towns don't try to go down this road. It's difficult to find EMTs on work days, but I can try. Good for the town.
Yeah.
And I mean, as supervisor, I think he's well within his rights to say, well, the park's saying we're not using it, so I'm going to reevaluate this situation now since we have time. And I think the help is more useful here.
He is, but that should be a town board decision, not something that is presented as.
And then the other, just to point out, is because we don't have this person, sometimes we don't have the EMT in town.
That's right. Right now,
We all know that's not a good thing. If I look around the room, probably the average age is 60, so.
I qualify.
Do you have any other thoughts?
I am glad that we brought it to the board. Thank you. And
Okay.
the salary is negotiable, or is it a done deal?
It's gonna have to be a little bit because it's hard to get EMTs. I mean, it's not gonna be, I don't know what they're making now. They're making like 23 now, something.
I don't remember what.
Brooke was making $22.80.
And then there'll be a raise in January, so
Yeah.
it's probably gonna be right around that anyways.
Does anyone think that we have $3,000 line item in the budget for cleaning this building? To me, it seems like that could be part of this new person's duties. It's just an idea. Does everyone think that's a terrible idea?
I know I'm not going to ask an EMT to clean toilets.
It's gonna be hard to get an EMT that's gonna do that.
and write grants. Basically, we could take the 3,000 and apply it towards some of the parks because they're the ones that come in and clean this place. And Nicole and I do. She spends money on, cleaning product, so however that's budgeted, it gets.
Nothing else. We didn't have a line item for it. There's our money to pay for the exterminator that we didn't have a line item.
Oh, that's true. We got the
Paid for.
mouse killed. Okay, so any further discussion? I will keep the board apprised of what happens next.
The people who are interested should contact you.
I forget.
Because I had someone who asked me.
Okay, yeah.
Great.
Or
The more
just,
people we have to interview, the better off
So,
we'll be.
they'll
Really,
tell-
we're just asking for resume or application.
so I'll have them contact you.
Sure.
send something in.
This might be the same person who's already applied possibly, but.
We don't know. Okay, so budget amendments, none. So we've gone through the claims audit and the transfers that are in. Have a motion to accept the, what am I doing?
Pay the bills.
Pay the bills, please. Motion to pay the bills.
Make it.
Is there a second? Laura?
Okay.
Darren? Any discussion? All in favor?
I just have a couple questions afterwards.
Opposed? None. Tina, have you voted aye? Thank you so much. Okay, public comment. Yes, Pat?
I go to the beach in the summer all the time, and it's always tourists there, so it is visitor, having the lifeguards. But I had this really good idea for raising money. Put a little house there, give local people a tag for their car saying that they can go in for free, and charge tickets to go in their park.
Going through some of the old archives, there's a law, it's probably never been revoked or anything, which set up a parks department, set up a rate for people to use the campgrounds and to use picnic tables, had somebody working down at the beach in the summers charging and things like that. It was made in 1965 or so, and who knows how long, whatever happened to the law. I mean, people just sort of move away from these things, but the town has trotted these things out. That will require sort of more thought and coordination so that we set fees
And more help.
I was gonna say, 'cause there's gonna be enforcement aside.
and more help. Enforcement's always $1 million question.
Well, if you have somebody in a little house, they do it on Cape Cod.
Right, but you have to pay that.
Yeah, that's right.
It would help with the housing shortage.
No, we had a place to live, back when we
A
did
little
that,
house.
they did live
A
in the
nice
beach
little
house
house at
for
the
the
beach.
summer.
Okay, Don's gonna,
Yeah, they lived at the beach house. Then when they did away with the campground, they had somebody there during the day anyway, because the other campgrounds were complaining. So the campground was ended at the town beach. And then we had a person still stayed there, they caretaked the beach house. They collected from the tourists. It wasn't much, it was 25, 50 cents to park the car for the day. And then when the beach house burnt, there was no need for any of that anymore, so it was done away with.
This was after the original Owasso Club.
The beach house
Yeah.
that was there when I was a kid, the one that
Yeah.
burned. I remember it too. Yeah.
It burned in like 86
It
or
was
85.
really nice. It was a shame that it was
I would
destroyed.
say more than 25 cents though.
At a zero.
Yes, now, but I mean, that's what it was then.
It could be a moneymaker.
It could be, because we charge $10 a day in games, so I mean, we could give them parking passes for $10.
I watched you guys counting money out down there one day. That's quite a bit of money you guys get. So, thank you. Anyone else want to comment? Charlie?
So Nicole, you said you took a test to move your certification up?
Yes.
Did you get a raise for that?
No.
I don't know nothing. I can only tell you.
Good one, Charlie.
Thank you.
In the town of James, we have 4 girls that do the job that she does.
Yep.
Not speaking up for her because she's my wife, but we do have 4.
Joaquin has a few.
And she brings work home at night, doesn't charge the town extra. People don't have a clue what she does.
Nobody is disputing her her requirements.
I'm just saying,
Not
the
one
extra
person.
help to.
I just didn't want to be
giving her the extra
it to be a
help
hindrance to her.
Shouldn't be complained about. And the deal that the fire department's getting, the last House Able meeting, what's what it's costing the town of Dane, the town of Black Brook to have them. You guys are getting a hell of a deal up here.
Oh, no, that sounds good. Anybody else? Pat?
I got an email, a good email from Jerry Botcher.
Okay,
Is he gonna be
we're
back
gonna,
at the planning
we're
board?
gonna discuss that at the work session.
That's it?
At the last board meeting, we had agreed that the town board wouldn't get raises in the new year.
No,
Everyone
no,
met with
no,
that.
nobody paid the resolution on that.
Yes, but if anyone watches the video, everyone had agreed with it, but it wasn't formally resolved, or there was no motion. I think we should. I think we should not get raises.
Well, the budget's already passed.
Thank you, yep.
Perfect. Well, there you go. That's why there's such a rush.
That's right.
You know, to what, Tim? I'll write my $200 raise back in a donation to the town.
Okay.
Why don't you do the same?
Okay.
Absolutely. Have no problem with that.
Thank you. May I have a motion to adjourn?
A lot
the
of
meeting?
taxpayers here, keep your money.
Yeah.
I mean, if you take it out this year, you're gonna have to make it up next.
Oh, I know, but you know, it's really important that we save the $200 all the time.
It's actually 1,800, but who's counting when it's other people's money?
All right,
I
so
donate mine, Tim. I'd expect.
motion to adjourn, please.
I'll make it.
Thank you. There's Rick.
This conference will now be recorded.